that some of you have questions regarding the course, and I want to say to you at the outset that even after today, we're starting at 6. Even after today, if I don't manage to answer all your questions, you are still very welcome to write to me at any time, and I will make sure I respond to you before the exam. Okay. Now, in fact, if I had the idea the other day, I should have done that earlier, but if you go to Blackboard and if you go to our credit course, I should have done this earlier, but never mind, because every time you guys ask me questions, I'm always doing my best to share the information. But if you go to the credit course, on the left-hand side, there is a thing called discussion board. Has anyone else used it with you? Huh? Who has? Financial policy. Okay, so what I've done is I've set up a forum here. So if you click on discussion board, you should see, so right now there are no posts and no answers, okay, but you are welcome to just click on that and put your questions up there. And so that means everyone can see it, and I will answer the question. I will check this regularly. Okay, so why don't we, in the next, in the course of the next week, you can do that. So don't feel that you are helpless. You're not, and I will do what I can in the remaining time. Now, what I would like to do tonight, though, we got several interesting things, and if we get them covered, maybe I can let you go at 7:30. So it's still just an hour and a half. Let's see how we go. I want to give you an exam briefing and then a checklist on the things that you should know for the final. And actually got a couple of work examples just like last time, so we can go through them. One of them is regarding investment performance. Actually, there is a second one on VAR and just the required capital or return on equity for credit derivatives. So we'll take a look at that, and then I welcome any questions. But there is something else that came up. Some of you are asking me about the correlation in a securitized vehicle with different tranches. So we will try and talk about that briefly as well. Okay, so plenty to get excited about. 25th of May, I am sure that video is available, but I haven't updated the link. I think I will. And then tonight also is on tape. Now your final exam is going to be next Sunday. So so 1 week tomorrow. Why is it a Sunday? Okay, let me ask you back. I don't like to answer the question. When would you like to have it otherwise? You want to have it on a Friday? Friday is actually a public holiday. You didn't know that, right? Yeah. You want a problem with that? 10 a.m. is early. You know what time I woke up this morning? 3:30. That's very healthy. Some people say I'm sick. Huh? I didn't go to bed. I went to bed really early. I went to bed at 1 a.m. That's for a different reason. Yeah. What was I saying? You asked me why Sunday. Well, we don't have a choice because it cannot be Friday. The campus will shut down. For some reason, they are okay with helping us on a Sunday. I guess because so many people do it. But they're not so happy to help us on a public holiday. Maybe because they have families and so on. Okay. So that is why we do that. And the reason we don't do it on Monday, you must know that. Right? So things are moving fast. Okay. I will update these links very soon. And now regarding the exam, there will be 2 sections. And the first one is multiple choice. Okay, first of all, it's next Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's in YALP 7, so just downstairs and across. As I recall, the 2 sections are roughly 50-50. May not be exactly 50-50. So you need to time yourself quite well. If you get multiple choice and you find that you're spending well over 2 hours, you should look into it. Okay?
It's 3 hours.
It's a 3-hour exam, yes. So there are some calculations, like the ones that you've done either in the quiz or sometimes the ones that I've gone through with you. You know, that kind of style. There's not going to be any stochastic calculus, okay? Not for this course. Unless you want to be a credit quant. And then mostly it's the lectures, okay? But I just compliment Ryan's material. And you just need a simple calculus. You don't need anything fancy, definitely not. So don't bring a very sophisticated calculator. We might start checking if there's anything in there. Now, let me just say a few things about correlation. Do you remember in one of the lectures, Ryan was talking about you may have a transaction. What are these things called? Credit basket or synthetic CDOs, collateralized debt obligation, and typically there might be like 100 names. Now, first of all, if there is no tranching at all, if there's no tranching, and there are 100 investors, imagine there's no. I'm now kind of taking one step back. If there is, all right, if there's no tranching, so this, and then this portfolio has 100 names, and there are 100 investors, let's say, and then one of the company, so no tranching,
Okay, so I'm now, so no tranching at all. So everybody, basically all the investors will have the same priority or same claims on this. And so this is investor 1, investor 2, investor 3, investor 4, and so on. And each of them will have a share. And maybe you can slice it this way if you want. So this is company 1. This is, now this is not tranching it, okay? This is just showing you that the credit risk of company 1, company 2, company 3 are shared equally with all the investors. Is everyone is with me on this? Yeah. So if let's say you imagine company 1 goes bust and it completely disappears, and company 1 was 1% of the portfolio, then if company 1 defaults and there is no recovery, then what would be the loss for, and let's say it is company 1 was 1% of original portfolio. Yeah? And now that company has vanished completely. So these are the facts. Company 1 defaulted. Fact number 2, no recovery. Fact number 3, company 1 was 1% of the original portfolio. So I ask you a question. For investor 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, all the way up to investor 100, what is the loss for each and every one of these? That's a very simple question. Huh? 1%, isn't it? Yeah? Now, Ryan used a term, so 1% here, and 1% for the portfolio, and 1% for your share, when there is no tranching. And Ryan, can you still read that? Ryan used a term in class, which I think was confusing a few people, but he actually had a label for this, and he called this linear risk. Some people came up to me and asked me, Sam, what is the meaning of linear risk? That's what that means. 1% of the portfolio is gone, 1% is what we use. Okay. Pretty simple. Now, so when there is tranching, this is the magic, I think, of securitization. So when there is tranching, suddenly things start to look very different. So you may have, let's say, they're called super senior, and let's say it's 75%. And then there is usually, so this is the super, I always find that term kind of funny, super senior. So what? Rated AAAA. And then there is the so-called mezzanine. Mezzanine is an Italian word, it just means in the middle. Oh, is it? It sounds Italian. It probably can be, well, they're next to each other anyway. Mezzanine, okay? You know what I'm saying? And then you have the equity, or the junior tranche, if you want. Now, everyone is okay with that? Now things look very different, because if it's the same portfolio as the one before, but one of the companies defaulted, what would happen is it doesn't touch these guys, but the junior tranche has gone from 5% to 4%. So the credit risk is still the same. But depending on how you prove it, the risk. Okay. Here is your tutor not even able to add 7 plus 25 plus 5. Give out some dollars. Thank you. Are you okay with that? Yeah? So, one company disappears, suddenly the junior tranche will take a 20% hit. Now, you guys are okay so far. But it gets more interesting than this, because if you remember in Ryan's slides, so depending on what kind of portfolio you have, the way you price it would depend on the correlation amongst the assets. Now that's the part I want to sort of talk about a little bit. And here we have a couple of graphs where on the left-hand side is the equity tranche or the junior tranche. And you can see that when correlation amongst the portfolio, generally, okay, when correlation decreases, the compensation required actually goes up. Okay, so the compensation, I'm going to say compo, or spreads if you want. Okay, the spreads that are required, the credit spreads that investors will demand, it goes up when correlation goes down. Are you okay with that? Now, first of all, do you understand what I'm saying? You do. Never mind the reason. At least do you understand what I'm talking about? And then for the super senior, when the spreads go up, actually it should be the other way. The causation is the other way around. Okay, I should write it better. So which one is causing which one? It's when correlation, thank you, when correlation of the entire portfolio, when correlation goes down, the spreads go up. And you can see that from the graph. And for the senior tranche, when correlation goes down, the spreads also go down. Now, like I said, there are two issues here. Issue number one is, do you even understand what I'm talking about? And if you do, the second issue is, what is the reason for this? Are you all okay? If I was Ryan, I would be tempted to ask the question, why? Are you able to, I don't know if it's in the exam, but it would be a typical example of what can be in the exam. You understand what, can you adequately explain, not to me, not to Ryan, but in a few months' time when you're out there, you could be working for private banking or wealth management. You could be explaining to a customer. You could be explaining precisely this to a customer. How would you explain that? If that's what we're trying to train you on.
you can explain? Who can tell me? So, yeah.
Yes, because in the actual countries, when the correlation goes up, the probability of each asset to default goes up as well. Because they are, let's say they were in a greater variety of industries, and so they face a wider risk exposure.
You are on the right track, but I prefer to think of it in really, really simple terms. And now I've made some notes here. The idea here is to try to help you understand, so I hope I succeed. But so you have a deal like this.
So the proportions are a little bit different, but never mind. This is adding up to 100. Thank God. So if you now this deal only has 20 names, so that's kind of interesting. So assuming it's equal weight, so each name will be $5 million. So the total size is 100. Super senior is 80, mezzanine 15, junior 5, 20 names. Now, if you invest in the junior tranche, if one name defaults and there's no recovery, it will completely blow you away. Correct?
The question is,
if you are thinking to invest in the junior tranche, what is actually on your mind? What is on your mind is, if there is a high chance of at least one default, at least one, that makes you nervous. If there is at least one, you don't really care whether it's 2 or 5 or 7. One is bad enough. Are you with me? Yeah? So at least one, as I'm sure you can recall, in probability, has a rather neat, you sort of flip it around. Now at least one, so a low chance of at least one default will decrease your risk. Are you with me? Yeah? What does at least one mean? At least one is 1 minus no defaults. Correct? Yes? You must have seen this before. It's just turning it around. So I just told you
that the risk for the junior tranche will go up if this goes up. So that means the risk will go up for the junior tranche if this goes down. The probability of no default. Now, I'll give you just a very extreme case
with only just 2 names. We have 20 names, but just think of 2. Okay? So if you have 2 names only, so in the end you can have 4 scenarios. So either B default or A default, or both of them defaulted, or both of them are okay. And
so the last one is no default.
And what I am saying is, if the correlation between A and B, if that goes down,
if the correlation between A and B goes down, so that means when A is doing this, B is doing that.
The chances are
one of them will go wrong. So your risk will rise as the correlation goes down. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, basically would explain why low correlation is bad for the junior tranche. Because if there are 28 and you are a junior tranche investor, you are praying every night before you go to bed that you don't get a single default. You don't care whether it's 1 default or 7 defaults or 19. For you, the outcome is the same. So you don't want anything bad to happen. And the chance of that increases when correlation decreases. I'm going to keep doing this. All right, so this goes up, that goes down. This goes up, that goes down, so on and so forth. Is everyone okay with that? Yeah? Yeah. 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 These scenarios. So if the correlation goes down, the possibility of scenario 4 happening also goes down. I'm sorry? Correct, yes. Which is why 1 minus x goes up.
Remember being on the previous line of this line, that the x is representing the probability of at least 1. Oh, sorry, I remember.
No, it's okay. If I did that, what I would now do is I would just change the notation. Is everyone okay with that? Now, just remember this. Okay, if there is any doubt, let me make it quite clear then. I'm going to change my slides. Junior tranche hates low correlation. And you should be able to explain why. Okay, and senior tranche hates high correlation. First of all, you do know that, I hope, but knowing just the fact without being able to explain it, it doesn't get you very far. Why do you think the senior tranche investor would hate high correlation? Why is that? Again, I don't know if that's in the final, okay, but if I were you, I'd think about that before you go to bed tonight. Yes?
Many underlying axes people at the same time, and as an insurance must be leveled out when all of them will be at the same time than the senior tranche.
That is absolutely correct. Now, you can think of it like this. So, the whole idea of tranching and securitization is that this and this is supposed to give you some protection. You are sitting on top of it. It's like a building. So if it starts flooding, then people on the lower floor are supposed to suffer first. But think of a really extreme case when the correlation in this portfolio is actually perfect. They're perfectly correlated. That means the moment one company goes down the toilet, they all go down the toilet, correct? So what good would this be? Or even this? Because the whole thing is going to sink. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much what happened to a great extent during the last global financial crisis. People thought that they had a well-diversified portfolio, but it turned out they didn't. Okay, is everyone okay with that? So I've written a couple of bullet points. Senior tranche hates high correlation. Now, it gets more interesting than this because there is now the mezzanine to consider. So, you know the equity tranche looks like this on the right, and the senior looks like this on the left, and the senior looks like on the right hand side. Do you remember what the mezzanine looks like? It has this kind of shape. First of all, do you know that? Right. But knowing is not enough. I always ask the $1 million question. Yeah, why? Yeah. Why? Why does it look like that? Did you hear what she said? Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. She said when correlation is low, then okay, let me organize my thoughts. When correlation is very low, then the mezzanine tranche actually is more like the super senior. But when the correlation is very high, okay, then it starts to look like the equity tranche. That was what you said? Yeah? Now, let me try and explain to you in a really simple way. So at the very beginning, if you have 3 tranches, because people always ask me this question. So you have the equity and you have the super senior, and you have the equity. And like I said, first of all, I draw the graph. Okay, so these are the so correlation is on the x-axis, correlation, and the spreads that investors will require. It looks like this. Now, why is that? The reason is when you start a transaction, so imagine when you first put on this trade and you are out there marketing to clients and everything is looking normal, there are no financial crises anywhere. If you are a mezzanine investor, you actually feel more like a super senior investor. And what I mean by that is you feel like a super senior because there is someone underneath you. So at the start of a transaction, if you are mezzanine, your mindset is you feel like you are almost like it's like what's a good analogy? So you fly, you fly, and you take a holiday or have a business trip. Okay? So there's first class, there's business class, or in fact there's premium economy. There's first class, there's business class, there's economy class. So you are in business class. And then you feel like you're a VIP because you saw, you can see what it's like in the economy. But let's say they completely cancel the economy class. I don't know why they would do that, okay? But let's say they did. So now you are in business class and you think, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I don't feel so good anymore. Now, so when you start at the beginning of a transaction, you may feel like a super senior, but when correlation starts to go up, because you feel like you are a senior. Now, how does a senior tranche, how do they think? They think this way. They think this way. Okay? But when you get an increasing concentration of correlation, now when correlation starts to increase, it generally means in the market that there is something turbulent going on, and then the companies start to disappear one after another, and then maybe this will get wiped out. Now, if they get wiped out, guess what? Now you are the junior. So you start to act like a junior, or you think like a junior. How does a junior think? A junior wants more compensation when correlation is low and less compensation when correlation is high. So that is why it actually goes down like this. It probably sort of does this the other way. But the point being, it goes up and then it comes back down. Is that okay with everyone? I wanted to explain this because I get asked quite often. Everyone is okay? You sure? All right. If you're not, you can go home and review the video. Okay. So I've got some slides here, really just trying to push that point home. So low correlation is bad for junior. High correlation is bad for senior. And so you should know at least that. We talked about that 10 minutes ago. But this is just repeating what I said in longer sentences. Don't memorize this and then give it back to us during the exam. Okay? Try to understand. Use your own words. If ever it is asked, I don't know if it is asked. So the problem is, why does the mezzanine tranche have that rather peculiar pattern? So like I said to you at the start, it actually, at the beginning, the mezzanine guy thinks like a senior because there is another tranche below it. So it wants to have low correlation, just like the senior will. But as correlation keeps getting higher and higher, that would normally mean there are some losses happening. This is typically what really happens. It's happening right now. Okay? So what usually happens? I'll tell you what happens. So they push up interest rates in the United States, for example, and then so interest rates go up, and credit spreads start to go up, and you get more and more. You start to get defaults, and bankruptcies. And then it happens more and more, and that is correlation increasing. Now, when that happens, and as losses start to appear, and the equity tranche is either wiped out or close to getting wiped out, then the mezzanine tranche itself starts to look like the junior tranche. What does junior tranche really hate? Low correlation. What do they like? They prefer to see high correlation, which is why you get a graph like that. Okay? Make sure you understand this, just for your benefit. Okay, I have actually this question is regarding that. Now I have here what I call a concept checklist. So I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to go through a couple of worked examples, and then after that, if you don't have further questions, I will release you. Yes, sir.
Every CDO, most CDO are changed.
Nowadays, in practice, yes. Although they don't, well, when they are untranched, we get back to what we were talking about. You have a linear risk. That does happen. That can happen. But I think that the ones that they do now, mostly they are tranched, yes. Why do you ask?
No, is there a reason you are thinking about it? I'm just curious.
There was a time, but this is like pretty old-fashioned stuff, when people would do this, the version on the left-hand side, and these are called pass-through asset-backed securities. It's called pass-through because it's just cash in, cash out, no tranching, nothing. But I think these are mostly limited to the more old-fashioned products like mortgages and credit cards and so on. Okay. Okay. Now, concept checklist.
I want to start with a big fat disclaimer that this list is just the essentials of what you should know based on my experience working with clients. But it's not a complete list. It can't be. It will be a lot longer. But at the minimum, I think if you know these things that I list out here, I don't think you will fail. The first thing is you should know all these. You know what PV is? Present value, yes. What's FV? Future value. What's AV? Very good. Annuity value. Okay? I'll explain these later on. I mean, you should know them. DF, discount factor, and DV01 is just the duration or modified duration. Sometimes called PV01, sometimes called PVBP. They're the same thing. Now, you should know these. And in essence, and I had I made some quick notes here at the top. So when you have future value of something and you want to know what is the present value, of course, you just multiply by the discount factor. So if something is worth $5 in 1 year, let's just say 5, and the discount factor is 0.9, that must mean it's worth $4.50 today. That's absolutely obvious, right? But if you want to know what that is, that's today, right? But if you want to know what that is in basis point terms over a 5-year period or 7-year or whatever, you're going to need the DV01. You divide that, and then you get the annuity value. It's just another, let's say your DV01 was 4. It's just another way of saying that $4.50 is equal to, what's 4.5 divided by 4? Huh? 1.125, right?
It's just another way of saying that on a par basis, $4.50 over a 5-year period is equal to 112.5 basis points per annum. You know, ladies and gentlemen, don't remember these things, understand these things, and they will stay with you for the rest of your life. You try to remember it, I guarantee in 2 months, especially after a great holiday, okay, you will forget. All right? Correct, yes. Per annum, yeah. You have to be quite good at this kind of stuff, okay? Traders are very good at doing these mental calculations, from juggling from one future to present to annuity. Now, if you want to get back, so it's like a triangle. So if you have an annuity value and you want to know what is the future value, well, all you need to do is you work out the present value, and then you divide by the discount factor, you get back the future value. Although I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can. Is everyone okay? Yeah? This is not really part of the syllabus. It's just, you know, general basic knowledge that you have to know. Now that is, so that's concept checklist item 1. So we're done with item 1. I think you should know the risk-weighted assets
and fundamental and how it relates to credit and credit derivative. We actually have an example shortly. Okay.
What else? P&L calculations. I think we did one before, a few tutorials ago, and if you need to review it, the video should be there. Either fully funded or where there's leverage.
I suspect if Ryan was to ask you something, quite likely there is leverage involved. CDS,
CLN, credit swaptions, don't worry too much about those.
credit events, what are these things? Do you know what they are? Note that bankruptcy, failure to pay, restructuring. Note that, by the way, the credit events for corporations are a little bit different from credit events of sovereigns.
So there is this thing called moratorium, which is when a country imposes credit control and you can't get your money out.
That is something that is only applicable to sovereign bonds. First default baskets and total return swaps, we should at least be able to describe what they are or
How they function. Repo, security lending, TRS. We went through this actually at one stage. The note should still be there, especially with regard to leverage ratio and also calculations on risk weights and required capital and so on. Okay. So that's checklist number 1.
What is the P&L?
Where?
P&L
Are you asking me what P&L stands for? Yeah. You remember Ryan went through with you fairly earlier on in the course, and I think we also did an example in one of the tutorials where there is a client. Well, I think you will recognize it when you see it. So the client comes to you with $100, but they want a transaction which is like 3 times leverage, let's say. And then you have to structure that, and you have to calculate how much money you will make based on the parameters that you are given. Do you remember that? Yeah? So checklist number 2, synthetic CDOs and correlation. Now, we just talked about that just now, actually, just now, today. Credit index skews, we discussed that too, I think 2 weeks ago. Is the credit, in fact, this is a repeat, because I already have credit events here. Okay, so it's the same thing. The relative advantages of packaging trades in different ways in terms of bank capital required. And I think in the last tutorial or the one before, I tried to explain to you when you have TRS versus repo versus securities lending, you know, how do they compare with each other, you know, that kind of thing. Simple bond math, interest rate swaps, which we also did, and credit risk, like credit rating and all that stuff. So there, when you look at this list, actually, we have told you, or you know more than you think. Yeah. So see, you didn't realize, right, until you see the list. Wow, I really know so much. Yes, you do. Or at least we try to share with you this much. Okay. Then bilateral credit.
SBS is on the cross-border and SBS is on the default, the professional default.
Did Ryan even cover this year? I think what he meant was like a, how do you say that? Why? What I mean. Okay. So, and on the one hand, you lend to somebody, but there is somebody else giving you protection on the other side. So it would be as if you are hedged with a credit instrument. Trading book versus banking book, well, we did all that last time. When you do a trade, is it even worth doing? What kind of P&L are you going to earn? And this is the $1 million issue, what is the ROE? You might be doing a trade which is earning $3 million. You put it on a table of the head of capital markets. First question they will ask you, what's the ROE? Well, this transaction is going to earn $3 million. Your ROE could be 2%, in which case they will definitely flag it down. That kind of thing. Wrong way risk, we discussed that too. Special purpose vehicles, we talked about that in the lecture almost every week. Correlation trading, I'm not sure it's a correlation doesn't really get traded a lot. And it really is, it is quite fascinating when you think about it in finance. So everybody knows what a bond is, or a stock, or a commodity or currency. These are things that you can see, that you can touch, and you can trade. When it comes to option volatility, things start to get a little bit obscure. Not just technically, but you can't see it. Okay? I can trade desks, I can trade PCs. Volatility, well, where is it? Correlation is even more obscure, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? Yeah? There is not much of a market for trading that. Although you can price it and you can have an implied value. But just understand that the role played by correlation in credit is absolutely critical. Okay?
So you have to be able to explain or write about that topic. Okay. Is everyone okay with that? There is one more thing, I guess, which is all those VAR calculations. Why didn't I put that down? Okay, I'm going to take this spot because you don't need credit events. Value at risk. And CVA. You know what CVA is? Okay, I'll tell you what, I will write it in longhand, okay? Oops. Whoops. And CVA. Do you know what CVA is? Do you know what it is? This is a hot topic, or it's been a hot topic ever since the financial crisis. And if you look up CVA, the CVA how white, CVA how CVA and wrong way risk. So these are the things that Google is guessing what I'm thinking of. If you just type CVA, cerebral vascular accident. No. Okay, CVA, you type out the whole thing. Valuation adjustment. Okay, that's better. Now, I'll just give you a little bit of background on that. Now, when you are doing, so here's your balance sheet. And as you know very well by now, so whatever assets you have here, the regulators will take a good hard look at that, and then they're going to put a risk weight on your assets, and they are going to ask for a minimum capital requirement and so on. Please understand that assets don't have to be just bonds and loans and stocks. Assets can be derivatives. Okay? Assets can be derivatives. For example, I have a stock Jan, and Tianwen is UBS. I pay him some money and I buy an option from him. Now, I pay some money, I got some, that's an asset, right? Number one, that is a derivative, first of all. That is a derivative transaction. But it is also, okay, now I'll put it the other way. Number one, it is an asset. And number two, it is a derivative. And when you are trading a derivative, there has to be a party on the other side that you are trading with. So this is me, this is UBS. So let's say I'm SocGen. And I pay some money and I buy an option. Now this is the simplest example I can think of. And this transaction will go on
for, I don't know, maybe 3 years, 5 years, and so on.
Now, if I am SocGen, I actually face two risks. Risk number one is the risk on the option itself, okay, the market volatility, just the market risk. Market risk means the risk of my asset changing value because the market is moving up and down. Okay, now there is a second risk. What is that? Very good. Counterparty risk. Counterparty risk. Now, what does that exactly mean? What it is if I am winning with my option, and I'm feeling very happy about that, but one day, UBS suddenly disappeared. So I thought somebody was going to pay me the payoff, but the party who is responsible is not there anymore. Now that is called counterparty risk. So maybe I bought my option at $10 at the start, and so on day one is worth $10, and then day 365 is worth 12. So I'm doing well, but regulators will, well, first of all, regulators will charge you something for the market risk. But secondly, regulators will say, well, hold on a second, you are dealing with UBS. It's a bit of a shaky party. So I'm going to charge you on this as well. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is known as credit valuation adjustment. Okay? And I'm going to tell you a secret. Prior to the global financial crisis in 2008, quite honestly, not many people thought about this. To be honest with you, they thought that
Dealing with UBS is the same as dealing with Deutsche Bank, is the same as dealing with HSBC, is the same as dealing with Lehman Brothers, which is the opposite, the last one. And this topic became quite fashionable after the global financial crisis. So, which is to say, if you are dealing with a very, very strong bank compared to a very weak bank, the CVA value is likely to be different. Okay? So now that's what I want to impress upon you. I want to just go through. There is an example here. Now this slide you've seen before. So always think about what is motivating investors and banks to do something. It usually is to do with, you know, getting more interest, getting higher spread, higher coupon, more income, or decreasing capital. It usually is one or the other or both. But I want to share with you just a typical question. Now, take a moment to read this. Okay. So you have a trade, some kind of trade. I don't even care what it is. It's just a FTD, right? $100 million. And you are making profit of 1.35% upfront, that is, okay, today. And the minimum requirement, according to Basel III, is you must have 10% of your risk-weighted asset, whatever the RWA might be, okay? So we'll come to that in a moment. Now, you're doing this trade with somebody, and there are various parameters here. Let me just read them out. There's a VAR, there's a value at risk. There's a stressed VAR. There's actually, these terms are in your lecture slides, so you can go and refer to them in greater detail. But for the purpose of this question, I'll just show you these numbers. There is a credit risk-weighted asset. Now, the question is, if you are doing this trade and the bank is buying protection, so the bank is paying for it, so that for the bank is an asset, and the client is selling protection to you, with this information, not the fund, with this information above, what is the return on equity of a trade like that? Now, even if you can't do the question, do you understand what we're asking you? Don't look at it and say, oh shit, what's going on, okay? At least you understand what ROE is, right? Yeah, return on equity. Let me, now if you read Ryan's notes more carefully, you will actually get an idea. But let me just copy that over to here. All right. What font is that? 20. No, it doesn't need to be that big. So I have copied the question over. By the way, you will get a digital copy of all these scripts that I've made. In fact, I think I put one version up. I will update it and then make sure you get that this weekend. Can you still read that? Is it too small? Okay. Now, where do we begin? First of all, you have to determine what is the total risk-weighted assets. Otherwise, you don't know how much capital you need to charge. So what you have is you already know the P&L. So the P&L over the required capital has to be your return on equity. The problem is you don't know what that is. So this is what we're going to try and figure out. Okay. So first of all, you have to determine what is the total risk-weighted asset. And that is equal to VAR after the multiplier. Now, I'm not really telling you anything new because this is in the notes. I'm just reinterpreting Ryan's material plus the stress VAR. Is that how you spell multiplier? Plier. Okay. Plus the IRC plus
That's my habit. It's subconscious, I think. Plus what? Thank you, Zhengting. Plus credit RWA plus the CVA. Now, this is the formula. Like I said, if you look at Ryan's notes carefully, this is the formulation that you will conclude. This is the conclusion that you'll come to study. But I'm just crystallizing it or reinterpreting and giving you the formula. You can see that, in fact, 4 out of 5 of these parameters you can just read off. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for 1, it is, so 1 is equal to 17.5 million, and 2 is equal to 48, and 3 is equal to 52, thank you, and 4 is equal to 3.5. Okay, it is now 1 hour and 11 minutes. So if you are feeling lost, just go home, go back to this point and watch it in slow motion if you have problems sleeping. The question is, how do you work out the last one? The credit valuation adjustment. Okay, now I'm going to show you. Now, first of all, what you need for the CVA is you need to work out what's called the value of risk before the multiplier. This is a way of kind of reconverting an existing value, the VAR, back to a risk weight. And the way you do that is you divide it by 12.5. Now, this is actually the same as multiplying it by 8%, because 8 times 12.5 is equal to 100. Multiply by 3.3. Now, please understand, I didn't make these rules. Okay? You ask the Basel guys why they made it like this. But this is the formula. So you just take whatever was the VAR after the multiplier, and you divide it by 12.5 times 3.3, and you get back the VAR before the multiplier. What is that? I better work it out. Or if somebody can help me on that. I'll just say 0.51 then. That's in million, okay? Is everyone okay with that? $0.42. You see, I completely trust you. Now for B, it's actually the same thing, but you take the stressed VAR, In the interest of time, I can't explain each and every of these items. I just want to show you how to do this calculation. So the stress VAR before the multiplier, and you give it the same treatment, but this time you're going to take 4.8 million. And, oh, I beg your pardon, 48, yes. 48 million, and you're going to divide it by the same thing. Like I said, dividing by 12.5 is multiplying it by 8%, and then dividing it by 3.3. May I ask what that comes to? 1.16 million. Okay. Now, what you then do, in order to arrive at the last item, the credit valuation adjustment, is you just take these two, this one and this one, so 0.42 million plus 1.16 million, and then you reapply back. You add them together first, okay? And then you're going to reapply the now, what is that equal to? Huh? Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, I didn't have to do that. That was unnecessary. Sorry. So I can just add up the two, right? Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you why I did this, because I wanted to show you how to calculate the VAR before the multiplier. But it's unnecessary, and I am sorry for contributing to global warming. Okay. What's the sum when you add the two together? For 48, 58, 65.5. Oh, is it 3? You said no difference, 3 or 3.3. You must be rich. Oh yeah, I think he had 3 in some slides and 3.3 in some. Okay, let's just say 3 then. Okay. 3. Now, well, that's a good thing, because after you reconvert, you're going to get back this number. Now, this is correct, right? 65.5. So what you now do is you just add them up. And what's the total? It's going to be quite a lot.
Why add twice in our extra to the total product?
No, I'm adding. Now, the VAR and the stress VAR are actually different concepts. Okay, the VAR is when they first invented this thing, so it's the value at risk. I think stress VAR is an additional factor which is supposed to account for extreme market turbulence. Say again.
For the stress value, will consider the effect is not the very small computer.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last.
I mean that if you don't consider the bar, you will consider the effect during a certain period. But when you consider the stress bar, you will consider that exchange effects during a very long time history.
Such as 2008.
Yeah.
You know, who cares about 3 and 3.3? No, I shouldn't say that. Now, okay, so this is the amount of money that is involved. So now you have the total RWA. You know, I think the difference between, it looks like you are kind of double counting, but here, these two are for the market risk, and these two are for the counterparty risk, but it is driven by, you know, how risky your trade is. Sorry, I mean the last one, okay? But anyway, now if the equity capital required is how much? 10%, yeah? So it's going to be 186.5 multiplied by 10%. Now you're kind of starting to compare apples with apples. So this is 18.6 million. And you are now ready to plug back, what did we say the profit was? $1.35 million over the minimum required capital. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is your ROE. What is that number? Hmm? 7.24%. You know what? I think this example that I made up probably has some resemblance to reality. I mean, after all, Ryan was telling you that they sacked the global head because the ROE was only 6%. I didn't think that was too bad, but you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So you feel better now with this trade? Huh? P&L is P&L, is here. Okay? So that's how you would do it. What else I want to show you? Does anyone have to go somewhere? If you do, then don't worry about me, okay? Now, the other thing I want to go through, and after this, I will let you go. And this is just a simple asset investment question.
Just take a quick look at this. So you have an investor who wants to buy some bonds via the opportunity fund. I think that is just a distraction.
But anyway, the deal is as follows. So the coupon of this bond is 6.5%, but the yield,
It actually yields 7.73. So the bond is selling at a discount of 97.4. There are other parameters now. This is why I said to you earlier, you should know the PE and the FV, and the AV, and the DD1, and so on. You should know what these are, all of them. And withholding tax, 15%. Capital gains tax, 12%. There's a discount factor of 0.92.
Well, it doesn't actually say how long the bond is, but let's just say it doesn't even matter. Okay, let's pretend it's 4 years. Okay, because you don't need that parameter. Yeah, because a 4-year bond will roughly have a duration of somewhere around 3.2. So there is a fee that is charged by the counterparty, Strong Asset Management. Well, there are two fees actually. One is the management fee. The other is just the trustee fee. So the question is, what is the expected return that you get for Jenny, assuming, now Jenny is not a male, Jenny is a woman. So assuming she will hold the, okay. If you were to hold it until maturity, what is the return that you'll be assuming there's no default, okay? That's a very important assumption. Assuming there is no default. So what is the average sort of per annum return that you are getting? Now, like I've said many times, even if you don't know how to do the question, do you understand the question? Yeah? Good. Now, how would you do that? Yeah, that always works. And actually, I put the question. I already, but I don't have enough space here. I'm gonna just. Can I take this somewhere else? Oh yeah. Okay, keep going down. Keep going. Okay. Oh shit! What have I done? Whoops. Oh no. Undo. Oh no. What have I done? Okay, I'm gonna cut that. So cut. Yes. Cut and paste at the. Why has it gone so small now? Cut and paste here when I will have unlimited space. Okay, this is the same question. All right, so this is today's worked example number 2. Now, it's actually very simple. So the return, and any fund manager or any aspiring professional should understand, is equal to the yield minus the withholding tax minus the present value of the capital gains tax no, what is a good way to express this? Okay, sorry, let me do this. It needs to be the annuity value of the present value of the, you see in a moment what I mean by this, okay? The capital gains tax, sometimes known as CGT, okay? Minus all the fees. Fees are just fees, okay? Now, what is the yield? Tell me what the yield is. 773, correct? Not coupon, yield. And how much is the withholding tax? So that means you have to take off 6.5% times 15%, because you're not going to get that. Every year, the government will take that away. Are you with me? Yeah? So this is this. This one is this one. Now this is the trickier one. So let's okay, first you have to do this part, then you have to do this part, and then you have to do this thing. Okay, so first of all, what is the capital gains tax? Yeah, it's 12. I know that. But at what price are you buying the bond? 97.4. Now, capital gains tax means when this transaction is finished in 4 years or 5 years, whatever, it will pop up. It will compound back up to 100. So you have a net gain of $2.60, correct? And that's right. So you will be charged a 12% tax on this. Now the problem is, this is a future value because you're going to be hit with that tax in 4, 5, 6 years' time. It doesn't seem to matter what the tenor is because all the other parameters are already given. So this is let's just say 4 years. Let's just say 4 years. Then in 4 years you'll be paying that. So today, this is the. Okay, I should do it properly. Okay, I will write it out properly. So the future value of the capital gains tax will be thank you, Jasmine. 100 minus 97.4, was it? Multiplied by 12%. You're going to be hit with that tax at maturity. Can I ask you what that is? So around 31 cents, roughly, okay? Now that is the future value. Now you need to know what is the present value. Now that is easy because what parameter do you need to figure that out? The discount factor. And what is that? It is, How come it's missing here? I had it in a question. Discount factor 0.92, yeah. Let me, I don't know why I'm missing that. So I'm going to copy that back. I really like this Microsoft notebook thing. I think it's great. Where were we? Yeah, so the discount factor, you multiply by the discount factor, okay? Which is equal to 0.29. So 29 cents. Now that's not the end of it. Now you need to know so on an annualized basis, how many basis points is that equivalent to? And you do this by dividing it by the DV01, which is 3.2. What is that? That is just approximately 1 basis point then, isn't it? Approximately. Okay. If we ask you a question like this in the in the exam per annum. That's the important thing. And you just round it up and you tell us that you rounded it up, that would be fine. Huh? Oh yeah, sorry, because this is, I'm sorry, this is 29 basis points, right? Yeah. This is 29 cents. Yeah. Who said it should be around 9 basis? Who said that? Is it Yifan? It should be nine basis points. What am I talking about? Okay, 9 basis points. Now we are ready because ta-da, we now have this. Yeah. So 7.73 minus withholding tax minus another 9 basis points or 0.09% minus fees. Now, like I said, fees are just fees. You got 2 fees here, and they amount to 1.35. This one plus this one. I think that's it. And I hope it's the answer is a positive number. Otherwise, we don't do this trade. Okay? So 7.73 minus 6.5 times 0.15 is 0.975%. Minus another 9 basis points. Note that these are all now annualized percentages. And it is only because they are that you can work them out like this. Okay, always compare apples with apples. So that would be equal to 5.315. Okay? Yes. He asked a good question. Did you hear the question? Now, he's asking why withholding tax. I'm doing it on an annualized basis now, and then the capital gains tax is only at the end, or I PV it back to the front. The reason is the withholding tax. Yeah, it's on the coupon, so that is happening continuously. But the capital gains tax will only happen one time at the end. So you find out what happened at the end, you discount it back to the front, and then you turn that into an annualized basis point value, pretty much like the triangle that I was showing you up here. That's exactly what's going on. You bought it at the dirty price, yes. Okay. Yes.
Why do we deduct the fee first?
What if you get the fee first?
So why do we deduct the fee first?
Why don't you deduct the fee first? The fee is paid every year.
Yes, but the tax is also paying.
The withholding tax is, yes, yeah. So all the expenses that are regular and annual, okay, you try to treat them as much as possible in percentage terms. That actually makes your job easier. The reason I spent so much time calculating this is because I really had to. I'm not sure.
What I mean is, why don't we deduct the fee from you first, then we calculate it with withholding tax, so that we will be receiving more.
Well, he's saying, why don't we deduct the fee first and claim that, you know, the coupon is, that the income is less.
Yes, because
Yeah.
the withholding tax is charged when the fund manager distributed the return to the investor.
I don't think so. It's for coupon.
Withholding tax on coupon. You'd be surprised. Governments don't care. They're very simple people. What is the coupon? 10%. What is the withholding tax? 15. Okay, 1.5. Wow. That's the way they do it. I know you, well, what you are saying, look, in reality, there will be a lot of other things you can claim and counterclaim. And, oh, I pay this fee, I pay that, I pay for the aircon, I pay for the Bloomberg and so on. Okay? But I think your suggestion of offsetting the withholding tax, I don't think that one works. Okay? All right, now what have we done today? Quite a bit, I would say. So we had a look at, we had a sort of exam briefing. It was very brief. We looked at the checklist. I showed you the, what was it? That eternal triangle, PV, FV, AV. We had a look at tranching and correlation. You can go home and read that if you want. And we had a look at a couple of examples. We had a concept check, and we had a look at some examples. Now, if you follow our advice, go to the checklist. I'm sure you'll be okay. That's why when you guys are doing this course, especially in like week 4, week 5, and people start getting stressed out and they worry. I knew there is nothing to worry about. Okay, you just do these topics, and you should be in good shape. I don't know if you're going to get an A. By the way, now, so it is now 10 to 8, and this shall be the last Saturday. You have to spend listening to me talk about markets. And I want to thank you for coming here every week, and I hope you have learned something. And I've enjoyed having you guys around. I always do, every week. And if you have any questions that you don't understand, like I said at the beginning, feel free to ask. Try to make use of the forum thing in Blackboard if possible. You're going to be really helping me a lot by doing that. I will check that. I'll make sure I check that every other day or something. Okay. But otherwise, thank you very much. And it's been nice knowing you. And drop me a line. Keep in touch. Okay. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Well, you're welcome. I'm really touched. And if you need to sign your attendance, so you can do that magic scan for the last time. Okay, let me just save this file first.